If you've been watching our videos for a while, you've heard me talk about me personally having multiple bank accounts in countries all over the world, having homes in countries all over the world, and just generally being diversified all over the world. And so a viewer named Max wrote in and asked, Andrew, how do you handle your personal logistics? How do you keep track of all this stuff? How do you keep track of your bank accounts? How do you keep track of where your polo shirts are? Well, get ready for a total geek fest, because in this video, I'm going to explain how I keep track of all of this stuff all around the world. Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson, and in this video I want to talk a little bit behind the scenes, some of the untold, unsexy stuff of how to manage a global citizen lifestyle. Like a lot of folks, I spent my early years as an adult living in the United States, and my bank accounts were at one or two banks in the US. I had an apartment that I rented and later a home that I owned. Pretty much my entire financial and personal world was in the United States. Everything neatly could be organized into one spreadsheet or into some kind of online accounting system, and everything just played pretty nicely together. Well, imagine now, here I am, I'm the Nomad Capitalist, and I have stuff scattered all over the world. Some of you would like to do the same thing. You like the idea of my trifecta approach, where you own homes in different countries. You like the idea of diversifying your money into different bank accounts in different countries. You like the idea of having your business where it's the lowest tax rate, not just because you're from there. But there does become a bit of an organizational issue with how do you keep track of all this stuff, because as I pointed out, you can't just, suck everything into mint.com, for example. You can't, bring your Armenian bank account into your, US or Australian or whatever, financial planning situation. So the first thing that I've done to keep myself organized is just take inventory personally. And for me, what that has meant is, while I started off exploring, I spent a lot of years exploring, and I would sometimes be in 30 countries a year, and I would be on a plane every week or two, or even more frequently. What I've done now is, as our businesses have grown, I've hired and trained some killers who can handle a lot of the stuff that I used to do. So, going and meeting attorneys and going and meeting bankers and doing some of that stuff to where I can stay in my homes. I think that for me, one of the most difficult organizational things was staying in hotels and keeping track of hotel stays and where you're going to be and what do you need to do and what's the baggage requirement for the next flight. For me, having homes and largely doing A travel. If I'm going from Kuala Lumpur to Dubai, I'm generally not going to go from Dubai to Tbilisi after that. Even though that makes sense, I'm going to schedule the Dubai flight to come back. So that way I can take my carry-on bag for Dubai, I can come back and I can just unpack into one place. So I don't have to keep track of, whether one airline has 15 kilos of luggage or 30 kilos or 50 pounds or whatever. So the first thing is, I've scaled back my life. And so while I recommend folks who are just starting and they're not sure where they want to live, do some exploration, look at some of the tax-friendly countries, go and check out 3 or 6 or 10 different options and then decide where they want to spend their time. I don't think you should do that forever. If you want to, I'm cool with that, but it's harder to be organized. And I saw a guy at the grocery store the other day here in Malaysia who, when he came to me a couple years ago, he said, Andrew, I know where I want to go, Malaysia, let's work my tax plan around that. And so for him, he said it's been a very easy adjustment going overseas because he didn't have that exploration. He just got right into being organized in one of his homes. Let's talk about bank accounts. How do I keep track of bank accounts all over the world? Well, what I did a number of years ago was I started tracking every financial asset that I had. And I made a spreadsheet with 4 tabs. The first tab was just a list of currencies where I pulled in the current exchange rates on a minute-by-minute basis so I can compute everything in a base currency. For me, it's US dollars. Then I had a second tab where I listed all my personal financial accounts. So that could be physical cash on hand. It could then be all the bank accounts. It could be metals accounts. It could be real estate, equities, debt. And then I have my own debt, as in, hey, I have an American Express bill I have to pay. And so I list everything on there, and I get so detailed as I actually list, for example, in Malaysia, I have utility deposits. And it's not because I'm worried about calculating and adding up, the total value of all my assets, including 300 ringgit utility deposit. But I wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything. And so I put everything on there, and I basically have, columns for, each bank, what kind of access I have to each bank. Do I have a hard token? Do I have a soft token? Does the online banking require 2FA? Which address is tied to which bank account, which email address, which phone number, etc. If you're going to get an SMS, which SIM card do I need to have? And so what I did was I actually got this Tumi wallet a number of years ago when I was flying through Australia on my way to Vanuatu. I picked this up in the airport shopping area. And so in this wallet, I keep some physical cash in different currencies. I keep cards for bank accounts I don't use that much. I keep some passport photos. I keep IDs from different countries. And then I keep my hard tokens for different bank accounts that require you to have a hard token to log on. So for me, what it's about is for banking infrastructure, centralizing everything in one place. Now, a lot of banks these days let you get a soft token on your phone. I'm a little bit old school. I actually kind of like the hard tokens. But that's what I do. I keep everything in one place. And I take this. I mean, if I'm going on a trip, even a weekend trip, this is like the nuclear football for me. It's like pretty much everywhere I'm going, if I need to send a payment or check something, I take it with me. It's all in one place. And I've realized the things that I just commonly need, right? Passport photo you might need when you arrive somewhere, or you need to go and apply for a visa, whatever. In terms of accessing accounts, things like technology, mobile phones, internet, at my homes, I just keep the internet on year-round. That's generally how it works. I have internet contracts at my home, so what's cool about that is you can actually get relatively low prices. Some people they advocate landing in a city and getting one of these kind of hotspots, and that can work. And I think that's a good idea if you're constantly traveling. But for me, I have 500 meg internet in Kuala Lumpur. It costs me about $30 a month. And so I just pay $360 a year, and whether I'm here for 1 month, whether I'm here for 4 months, whether I'm here longer, I have that internet. Same thing with mobile phones. If I can get a contract, I'm generally going to do that if I'm in any country for any length of time. Generally, length of time means I'll be there for more than 30 days at one point in time. And again, why is that important? Because if you have to do some kind of transaction or someone is contacting you, you want to be able to have different SIM cards available to you rather than constantly changing your phone numbers. And so what I'll have, if going back to my financial spreadsheet, I have a business tab, and then I also have a fourth tab, which just keeps track of my personal data. What are my addresses? What are my phone numbers? How many times these days, what's my wife's phone number? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. It's just in my phone. But I also keep that data on a spreadsheet so I can always know. And when I have to call a bank or any other institution, I have all the information right there. Now, for the stuff in my homes, this is where the geekdom really starts. I made a spreadsheet called Home Inventory, and I have a tab for each home. And I start categorizing things. I'll categorize clothing or fragrance or home goods. And so, for example, I like these TWGTs, and I like to take the TWGTs from Asia and put them in homes in other places where they don't have TWGT. And so if I can go to my home inventory at any given time, I will update which tees I have in that home. I'll update, which polo shirts I have in this home. And actually now I've got an assistant. I just said, all right, you take care of it. I'm going to send her to the home probably before I go there, and she can take the inventory. But as weird as that kind of sounds, if I'm going somewhere to a home, I want to make sure, do I have something to wear for the occasion, for the weather, what have you. One thing I've talked about is I like having these really nice Tom Ford private blend fragrances, and I like to have the right fragrances in each home. To me, there's certain fragrances, something with bergamot or something very summery that's good for Montenegro because you're there in June or July. If you're somewhere in the fall and it's kind of rainy and dark, you want something heavier. If you have a home in Dubai, for example, I don't, but if you do, you want something perhaps oud, and so you want to know what's in that place. Maybe you take the oud from Dubai and you got to put it back. This is getting advanced, but you ask me how I keep track of stuff. It's a series of spreadsheets, and it's keeping things always turned on. I'm not trying to strive for total cost efficiency. I love cost efficiencies, but I also love personal efficiencies. And so again, not having to go and track down a new SIM card, a new phone number every time I get into a city, it costs me a little bit more. sometimes, but it means I'm always reachable when I need to log on to do whatever kind of business I need to. I keep a relative amount of familiarity, right? If you, I remember growing up in the United States, we were able to keep porting our phone number. We moved to a couple different homes. We kept the same phone number for years. I know people who've lived in one country their whole life. They've had the same phone number for 30 years, some of them, right? And so you think, oh, if you're a nomad capitalist, you can't do that. I'm creating that process by just having numerous different contracts around the world, knowing where my stuff is, knowing where bank accounts, investments are. And if you keep that in as few documents as possible, don't have 9 different documents. Keep it in as few documents as possible. For me, it's 2. And then I'll have, additionally for each home, I'll have a one-page sheet that has the same information. Where's the electric bill? Where's the gas bill? When's the property tax? What are those bills average? When are they due? Who pays them? Is it online? Is it my property manager who pays them? Whatever. So 2 spreadsheets, 1 sheet for each home. That's how I keep everything. It seems overwhelming. I've created it as I've gone. And I think that none of you are probably going to go out and set up 5 homes tomorrow. So you can create it as you go too. That's the good news. As long as you have in mind keeping things organized, it's actually relatively straightforward. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.